The crystalline towers of Nexus Station gleamed against the backdrop of swirling nebula gases, the headquarters of the Galactic Confederation, standing as a testament to the unity of 1,000 species. Inside the central dome of the Xenological Studies Department, senior researcher Vexler's 6 appendages moved with practiced precision across holographic displays as he compiled his latest report on Sol 3, or as the natives called it, Earth. Another primitive war breaking out in Sector 7, he noted to his assistant Mira, a slender, blue-skinned Ardani, whose large eyes reflected the holographic images of Earth's continents. The third this solar cycle, it appears the isolation protocol was well justified. The Galactic Confederation had placed Earth under strict non-contact quarantine 3 centuries ago, after their initial observation teams reported the humans' alarming propensity for warfare and their unprecedented rate of technological advancement under pressure. Unlike other species who developed gradually over millennia, humans had progressed from primitive combustion engines to rudimentary space travel in less than 300 years, a pace that had frightened the Confederation's Oversight Council. "The pattern is consistent," Mira observed, her delicate fingers tracing the outbreak of conflict. "They fight over resources, ideology, territory. Sometimes they seem to fight simply to establish dominance." Vexler's skin shifted to a contemplative amber, and yet they survive. They rebuild. They advance despite their self-destructive tendencies. The laboratory door slid open with a soft hiss as Director Kazin entered, his massive reptilian form requiring him to duck beneath the doorframe. 3 junior researchers followed in his wake, their expressions conveying excitement that transcended their varied physiologies. "Vexler, you've heard the news," Kazin rumbled, his scaled tail twitching with barely contained energy. "I've been focused on my report, Director." "What news?" Kazin gestured to the youngest of the junior researchers, a Flexian named Toll whose gelatinous body quivered with excitement. "We've made a breakthrough in remote observation technology," Toll announced, his voice modulating through the specialized speech apparatus attached to his transparent outer membrane. "The new quantum-entangled sensors can penetrate the atmospheric interference that has limited our studies of Earth's current technological level." Vexler's interest was immediately piqued. For decades, Earth had been implementing some form of atmospheric shielding that interfered with the Confederation's observation capabilities. Many had assumed it was an unintentional side effect of their pollution, but some, Vexler included, suspected it might be deliberate. "Show me," he said, clearing his primary workstation. Toll connected a crystalline data module to the central system. The holographic display flickered momentarily before resolving into high-resolution images of Earth cities, transportation networks, and energy production facilities. "These are live feeds?" Vexler asked, his professional demeanor slipping as he leaned forward. "Captured within the last solar rotation," Toll confirmed. "We can finally see what they've been doing during the information blackout." The images showed a civilization that, while still fragmented into nation-states, had progressed far beyond where the Confederation's models had predicted. Clean, efficient transportation systems, city centers powered by fusion reactors, orbital platforms that seemed to serve both civilian and military purposes. "This can't be right," Mira whispered. "According to our development models, they should still be burning fossil fuels as their primary energy source." Director Kazin's scales darkened with concern. "The Oversight Council needs to be informed immediately. If the humans have advanced this far despite their isolation." "There's more," interrupted another junior researcher, a twin-minded Voleric, whose 2 heads spoke in perfect synchronization. "We detected what appears to be a small colony on their moon, and preliminary readings suggest mining operations on Mars." The room fell silent as the implications settled over the research team. The quarantine protocol explicitly prohibited Earth from establishing extraplanetary settlements. The fact that they had done so without detection suggested capabilities far beyond what the Confederation had believed possible. "How?" Vexler finally asked. "How have they managed this without our observation posts detecting their progress?" Toll's gelatinous form rippled anxiously. That's the most concerning part, senior researcher. We believe they've known about us all along. The holographic display shifted to show a series of Earth satellites in geosynchronous orbit. Unlike the crude observation platforms the Confederation had detected in previous decades, these were sleek, advanced machines with sophisticated scanning arrays pointed outward, toward the very observation posts the Confederation had placed at the edge of the solar system. "They've been watching us watch them," Director Kazin stated flatly. "And they've been feeding us selective information." Vexlor realized, his analytical mind racing ahead. The atmospheric interference, the primitive conflicts we've been observing. They wanted us to continue underestimating them. The implications were staggering. If humans had developed this level of technology, while creating the illusion of a far more primitive civilization, what else might they be capable of? And more importantly, what might their intentions be toward a galactic confederation that had isolated them for centuries? The Council must be notified, Director Kazin decided. But before that, I want direct confirmation. The quarantine has stood for 300 years. If we're to recommend its revision or reinforcement, we need absolute certainty. "You don't mean," Mira began, her blue skin paling to a light azure. "Yes," the director confirmed. "We need to make contact." The decision to breach the non-contact protocol wasn't made lightly. The Confederation Council debated for 7 full cycles before approving a limited communication attempt. The message would be simple: an acknowledgement that the Confederation was aware of Earth's advancement, and an invitation to respond through the provided quantum-encrypted channel. What no one expected was how quickly the humans would reply. The central communication chamber of Nexus Station was crowded with high-ranking officials when the response arrived. Vexlor stood to one side, still uncomfortable with his role in prompting this historic breach of protocol. The quantum receiver hummed softly as it processed the incoming transmission. "Signal authenticated," announced the communications specialist, her 4 hands working different control interfaces simultaneously. "Decryption complete." The holographic projector in the center of the chamber activated, displaying not the expected text response, but a 3-dimensional image of a human female. She wore what appeared to be a formal uniform of some kind, adorned with symbols of rank that the Confederation's cultural algorithms were still processing. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Confederation," the human said, her voice translated perfectly into standard Confederation language. "I am Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Alliance. We acknowledge receipt of your communication and appreciate this opportunity for dialogue after 3 centuries of mutual observation." Mutual observation. The phrase confirmed Vexlor's suspicions. The humans had indeed been watching the Watchers. "On behalf of humanity, I extend an invitation for a formal diplomatic meeting to discuss the terms of Earth's entry into the galactic community. We propose a neutral location at the following coordinates." A series of spatial coordinates appeared beside the human's image, indicating a position just beyond the orbit of Jupiter. "A ship will await your representatives in 14 standard cycles. We look forward to ending our isolation and beginning a new chapter of cooperation." The message ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. It was Director Kazin who finally spoke, his normally commanding voice subdued. They were ready for this. They've been ready. The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity hadn't been languishing under isolation. They had been preparing for this moment. Admiral Helena Chen removed the communication headset and turned to face the assembled leadership of the United Earth Alliance in the underground command center beneath Geneva. "Message delivered," she reported. Their facial expressions, at least those with recognizable faces, suggest our response took them by surprise. "As expected," noted General Okafor, his dark eyes fixed on the tactical display, showing the positions of Earth's defense grid. "They still think they've been successfully monitoring a primitive civilization. How soon before they realize the full extent of our capabilities?" asked President Leung, her weathered face grave. Admiral Chen considered the question. They've only just discovered our lunar base and Mars operations. They have no knowledge of our deep space installations or the Jupiter fleet. And the Sentinel, President Lung pressed. Still undetected, Admiral Chen confirmed. The stealth systems are performing beyond expectations. The Sentinel remains in position, just outside their Nexus station's sensor range. The UES Sentinel represented the pinnacle of human military technology, a deep space vessel equipped with next-generation stealth systems, quantum-locked weapons platforms, and gravitic drive systems that left no detectable wake in spacetime. For 5 years, it had been silently shadowing the Confederation's movements, gathering intelligence, and waiting for the inevitable moment of contact. The Confederation expects us to be grateful for their attention, General Okafor said with thinly veiled contempt. 300 years of quarantine, and they think we'll simply accept whatever terms they offer. They expect a formerly primitive species eager for validation, President Lung corrected. What they'll find is a united human civilization that has used their isolation to prepare for this very moment. Admiral Chen turned back to the strategic display. The diplomatic team is prepared. The escort fleet is on standby. And if diplomacy fails, she didn't need to complete the sentence. Everyone in the command center knew what the Sentinel was capable of. Humanity had spent centuries watching their watchers, learning their weaknesses, understanding their technology. They had prepared for peace but planned for war, a fundamental aspect of human nature that the Confederation had correctly identified but drastically underestimated. 14 days, President Lung said quietly. After 300 years of isolation, humanity steps onto the galactic stage in 14 days. Outside the reinforced walls of the command center, the citizens of Earth went about their daily lives, unaware that humanity's greatest challenge, and perhaps its greatest triumph, was about to begin. Far above, silent and unseen, the UES Sentinel maintained its vigilant watch, humanity's sword of Damocles hanging over the unsuspecting Galactic Confederation. The diplomatic vessel dispatched by the Galactic Confederation was a marvel of engineering, a gleaming construct of crystalline alloys and living biotech that reflected the combined genius of 1,000 worlds. It carried representatives from 12 of the Confederation's most influential species, including Director Kazin and Senior Researcher Vexlor, whose expertise on human behavior had earned them places in this historic delegation. As they approached the designated coordinates beyond Jupiter's orbit, tension permeated the ship's command deck. Despite the Confederation's technological superiority, the unknown capabilities of the humans left many of the delegates uneasy. Scanning the rendezvous point, reported the Trassic navigator, her compound eyes processing multiple sensor feeds simultaneously. No sign of the human vessel. "They're late," huffed Council Representative Zoltar, a methane-breathing entity whose environmental suit hummed quietly as it maintained his life-supporting atmosphere. Perhaps their technological prowess has been exaggerated. Vexlor remained silent, his attention fixed on the sensor readings. Something wasn't right. The emptiness at the rendezvous point felt deliberate, a stage waiting for its actors. "Wait," the navigator called, her chitinous limbs working frantically across the control interface. Energy spike. Some things. Space itself seemed to fold inward 3,000 kilometers off their port bow. Where there had been nothing but vacuum, a massive vessel now hung against the starfield. A sleek, dark shape that absorbed rather than reflected light. The ship was easily twice the size of the Confederation diplomatic vessel, its angular design unlike anything in their databanks. "By the first ones," whispered Director Kazin, his reptilian features fixed in an expression of disbelief. They were already here. The implications weren't lost on anyone present. The human ship hadn't just arrived. It had deactivated some form of cloaking technology that had rendered it completely invisible to the Confederation's advanced sensors. The humans had been watching them approach, silently evaluating their every move. "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer, her tentacles trembling slightly. The main view screen illuminated to show Admiral Helena Chen, The same woman from the original response message. She was standing on what appeared to be the command bridge of the human vessel, surrounded by officers at various stations. The bridge design was efficient, functional, clearly military in nature despite the diplomatic pretense. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Confederation," Admiral Chen said, her voice calm and measured. "Welcome to the edge of Earth's defensive perimeter. I am Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Alliance vessel Harbinger." Director Kazin stepped forward. "On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, we extend greetings. Your appearance was unexpected." A slight smile touched Admiral Chen's lips. "The Harbinger has been tracking your approach since you entered the Sol system, Director Kazin. Standard protocol for all foreign vessels within our territory." The casual revelation sent a ripple of unease through the Confederation delegation. Their most advanced stealth systems had been completely ineffective. "We were under the impression," Vexlor interjected, "that this would be a diplomatic exchange between our civilizations." "It is," Admiral Chen confirmed. "But humanity has learned through bitter experience not to separate diplomacy from strength. The Harbinger is both our conference room and our statement of intent." "And what intent would that be?" asked Representative Zoltar, unable to keep a note of indignation from his translated voice. "That we will no longer accept isolation," Admiral Chen replied without hesitation. "That we approach the galactic community as equals, not as subjects. That the quarantine ends today, one way or another." The underlying threat was impossible to miss. "Perhaps," Director Kazin suggested carefully, "we should begin our discussions in a more formal setting. Our vessel has prepared accommodations." "With respect, Director," Admiral Chen interrupted, "the discussions will take place aboard the Harbinger. We have prepared environments suitable for all members of your delegation." It wasn't a request. The Confederation representatives exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. They had severely underestimated the humans. The interior of the Harbinger was a revelation. Where they had expected utilitarian design, they found elegant efficiency. Where they anticipated primitive technology cobbled together from stolen concepts, they discovered innovation that in many cases surpassed Confederation standards. Most disturbing of all, the environmental chambers prepared for each species were perfect. Every atmospheric requirement, gravity preference, and biological need had been precisely accounted for. "How do they know?" whispered Mira to Vexlor as they moved through the ship's corridors, escorted by silent human security personnel. "The methane mix for Zoltar, the radiation levels for the Krith representative. They've never had contact with these species." "They've been studying us," Vexlor realized, "just as thoroughly as we thought we were studying them." The delegation was led to a circular chamber that resembled an amphitheater. At the center stood a holographic projection system displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with the Sol system highlighted. Around the perimeter, specialized seating accommodated the various physiological needs of each Confederation representative. Admiral Chen entered, accompanied by what appeared to be senior human officials in various uniforms and formal attire. She took position at the galaxy map and activated it with a gesture. The display zoomed in to show the Sol system in detail, not just the planets and major asteroids known to the Confederation, but hundreds of small installations, defense platforms, and vessel signatures scattered throughout. 300 years ago, Admiral Chen began without preamble. Your Confederation placed Earth under quarantine. You positioned observation posts at the edge of our system, cataloged our conflicts, and decided we were too dangerous to join your community of worlds. No one in the Confederation delegation spoke. There was nothing to deny. What you fail to understand, she continued, is that isolation doesn't weaken humanity. It strengthens us. Without access to your technology, we were forced to innovate. Without your protection, we had to defend ourselves. Without your unifying influence, we had to overcome our divisions through our own determination. The holographic display shifted again, revealing something that caused several of the Confederation representatives to recoil in shock. A complete schematic of Nexus Station, the Confederation's headquarters, with detailed annotations indicating defense systems, power nodes, and command centers. "This is an outrage," sputtered Representative Zoltar, his environmental suit venting excess gas in his agitation. "This is classified information. This is an act of espionage." "This," Admiral Chen corrected calmly, "is the consequence of underestimating humanity. While you watched us with outdated sensors and believed what we wanted you to see, we were developing technologies specifically designed to penetrate your security measures." Director Kazin leaned forward, his scaled hands gripping the edges of his seat. "You're implying that Earth has had surveillance capabilities within Confederation space for some time." "Not implying, Director. Stating. For over 50 years, we've maintained observation posts throughout Confederation territory. We've intercepted your communications, analyzed your technology, and prepared accordingly." The revelation hung in the air like a physical presence. The quarantine had completely failed in its primary objective. It had not contained humanity, but merely driven them to develop in secret, unbound by Confederation oversight or regulation. "But why reveal this now?" Vexlor asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming his shock. "Why not continue your covert observation?" Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because despite everything, we want peace, Senior Researcher Vexlor. We want trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense. We want to join the galactic community, but on terms of equality, not as a primitive species to be guided and controlled." She gestured, and the holographic display changed again, showing a vessel unlike any in the room had seen before. It was smaller than the Harbinger, but possessed a sleek, predatory design that spoke of pure military function. "The UES Sentinel," Admiral Chen explained, "our most advanced stealth vessel. As we speak, it maintains position less than 10,000 kilometers from Nexus Station, completely undetected by your security systems." The Confederation delegation erupted in protests and demands, but Admiral Chen raised her hand, silencing them with the quiet authority of someone who controlled the situation completely. "This is not a threat," she said firmly. "This is a demonstration. The Sentinel could have delivered devastating weapons to the heart of your Confederation at any time during the past 5 years. Instead, it has gathered intelligence and waited for this moment, this opportunity for dialogue." Director Kazin's scales had darkened to an ashen gray. "What do you want?" "Recognition," President Lung said, speaking for the first time as she stepped forward to join Admiral Chen. "The immediate and unconditional end to the quarantine. Earth's admission to the Confederation as a full member with all associated rights and privileges, and acknowledgement of our sovereign claim to the Sol system in its entirety. These demands are unprecedented," Zoltar protested. "No species has ever joined the Confederation without a probationary period, without oversight. No species has ever had to," President Lung pointed out. "But then, no species has ever spent 3 centuries preparing specifically for this negotiation." She stepped closer to the galaxy map, her diminutive human form somehow commanding the attention of beings twice her size. "Let me be absolutely clear. This is not a negotiation where Earth pleads for admission. This is a negotiation where the Confederation recognizes reality. Humanity is already a spacefaring civilization with technology that in many areas surpasses your own. We can be valuable allies or formidable adversaries." The unspoken threat lingered. No one doubted that the mysterious Sentinel positioned at the heart of Confederation space could deliver on that promise. Vexlor found himself oddly impressed. Throughout his career studying humans, he had documented their capacity for both cooperation and conflict. What he witnessed now was the perfect integration of those seemingly contradictory traits, the velvet glove of diplomacy covering the iron fist of military capability. "The Council will need time to consider," Director Kazin finally said, his voice heavy with the weight of the situation. "You have 24 hours, President Lung replied. "And as a show of good faith, She nodded to Admiral Chen, who made a small gesture. The holographic display updated to show the UES Sentinel decloaking near Nexus Station, causing visible alarm among the Confederation representatives. "The Sentinel is revealing itself to your security forces," President Lung explained. "Not as a threat, but as confirmation of everything we've told you. Its captain has instructions to answer any scans and communications from Confederation authorities. Consider it our embassy until more formal arrangements can be made." The Confederation Council's emergency session lasted through the night. Vexler, present as an advisor, watched the proceedings with a mixture of professional detachment and personal fascination. The humans had masterfully played their hand, demonstrating overwhelming strength while simultaneously offering peace. Admiral Chen smiled. "We needed to be ready, not just technologically, but culturally. The Earth you observed 3 centuries ago was divided, violent, short-sighted. We needed time to grow beyond that. And have you grown beyond it?" The Admiral's smile faded. "We've channeled it. The capacity for conflict remains. It's part of what makes us human. But we've learned to direct it outward, toward challenges rather than each other." She turned to face the expanse of space beyond the viewport. "The quarantine was the best thing that could have happened to us, senior researcher. It gave us a common purpose, to prove ourselves worthy of the stars not by your standards, but by our own." Vexler considered this. The Confederation feared what humanity might become. It seems we should have feared what isolation would help you become. "Fear isn't necessary," Admiral Chen said quietly. "Respect is sufficient. We don't want domination. We want partnership, but partnership between equals." As the treaty was signed later that day, officially welcoming humanity into the Galactic Confederation, Vexler couldn't help but think that the galaxy had just fundamentally changed. The humans had turned 3 centuries of isolation into an advantage, using it to forge themselves into something unprecedented. A species that had mastered both the art of peace and the science of war. The Silent Watchers had become the Watched, and in doing so, they had rewritten the rules of galactic politics forever. Humanity had arrived on the cosmic stage, not as supplicants, but as equals, their position secured not by permission, but by capability. And as news spread throughout Confederation space of the mysterious human vessel that had penetrated their most secure defenses undetected, one thing became abundantly clear. The species that had been deemed too dangerous to join galactic society had proven precisely why that assessment had been both right and wrong. Humanity was dangerous, but now they were allies, and the cosmos would never be the same again.